Hello all, it's Anthony again. And now we're going to the third part of the presentation regarding Symbian Operating System. And in this part, we're going to talk about the Symbian kernel. In the last presentation, we discussed the five uh, architectural layer of the OS, Symbian OS. And in the lower part, of that architectural service layer, we see the kernel and hardware layer wherein the kernel is resides. No? So in this layer, uh, kernel and the hardware is have communication. To better understand this, I draw this slide here. Yan. The upper part here, kernel in hardware is the last lower layer of the architecture, wherein the important part of this layer is the kernel. And then the kernel has the ability to talk to the application, and also uh, it also has the ability to talk to the hardware, to the peripherals, to the memory, and to the CPU. So basically, he is the middle in terms of communication between hardware and the application. And then, and it facilitates the interaction between hardware and software component. Technically, kernel is a computer program at the core of the Symbian operating system with a complete control over everything in the system. No? It is the portion of the Symbian operating system code that is always resident in the memory. So, yung critical code of the kernel is usually loaded in the separate area of the memory. Doon sa memory, we have two separate memory. We have the random access and the non-volatile type of memory, yung ROM. That's where the kernel reside. Because it stay in a memory, it is very important for the kernel to be small as possible while still providing all the essential services required by another part of the operating system and application. To better understand this, no, uh, let's see the prototype system of a phone running on Symbian OS. This one. This is a prototype version of a mobile phone uh, that is using Symbian OS. This particular prototype is used by the programmer, no, to test the application, third-party application of the Symbian. This particular setup here is what we call a embedded system. Actually, smartphone is a embedded system wherein all its primary component like processor, memory, and input-output peripherals are soldered in one board. So this one is a much larger version of a smartphone because this is a prototype. Uh, what I want to emphasize here is that the kernel is reside in this particular area here in the memory. You can see here ROM and RAM. So the smaller one chip here, the ROM, that's where the kernel resides. So once the phone is turning on, so it is the first program that going to launch the kernel to be able to talk to the other other component that the system is uh, going on. You can see here the in the embedded system another component like the processor, the modem, the device controller, the flash drive, and the support for the external drive, the external flash drive, and the bus controller for the communication of data.